Have you ever wondered what it feels like when the person you trust the most betrays you on the most important day of your life? This is the shocking story of a bride, her wedding day, and the jealous sister who tried to destroy everything with one cruel act. From wedding dreams to family betrayal, from sibling rivalry to deep humiliation, nothing will prepare you for the truth that unfolds. Stay with me until the end, because this story will remind you why love and resilience can overcome even the darkest jealousy. And don't forget to subscribe to Behind the Wedding to never miss more emotional wedding stories full of secrets, betrayal, and redemption. From the time Lina was a little girl, she imagined herself walking down the aisle in a beautiful wedding dress, surrounded by people who loved her. Now that day was finally here, and every detail felt like it had been pulled straight from her dreams. The dress she chose wasn't just fabric and lace, it was a piece of her story, the reflection of all the moments she had waited for. With Daniel by her side, her heart felt safe, as if nothing could shake the joy that wrapped around her. The air in the house buzzed with excitement, the kind of energy that makes time feel magical and fleeting. Everyone around her seemed genuinely happy, or so she believed. That happiness made her trust that everything was falling into place. The atmosphere looked perfect, and Lina couldn't help but think she was finally stepping into the life she always wanted. Daniel had been her anchor from the very beginning. Through every challenge, he was there with patience and encouragement, showing her what true partnership meant. On the morning of the wedding, his calm words soothed her racing heart, reminding her that no matter what the day brought, they were in it together. Lina admired his steady nature, the way he balanced her excitement with reassurance. It wasn't just about saying vows, it was about knowing she had chosen someone who would hold her hand in every season of life. Watching him move through the preparations with a smile on his face made her believe love could withstand anything. He wasn't nervous about the spotlight or the guests, all he cared about was her. In Daniel's eyes, she saw the kind of devotion she had always dreamed of finding. The family, too, seemed to share her joy. Her parents exchanged knowing glances, proud to see their daughter ready to start her new chapter. Relatives filled the house with chatter and laughter, blending old family stories with excitement for the future. Lina's bridesmaids moved around her room like a small army, fluffing the dress, checking the veil, and making sure every detail was flawless. There was a rhythm to it all, a harmony that made the day feel sacred. She felt surrounded by love and loyalty, comforted by the belief that everyone in that room wanted the best for her. In those moments, there was no space for worry, only gratitude. Lina thought to herself that this was what weddings were meant to feel like, a true celebration of love. The wedding dress held a special place in her heart, not just because of its beauty, but because of the effort it took to find it. She remembered the long hours visiting boutiques, trying on gowns that never felt right until she saw this one. The instant she slipped it on, she felt transformed, like it had been waiting for her all along. The soft fabric hugged her gently, the delicate details shimmering in the light. It was everything she had ever pictured. Standing in front of the mirror, she didn't just see a bride, she saw a woman who had grown, who had faced struggles, and who had finally found her place. The dress became a symbol of hope, a promise of the life she was about to begin. With it, she felt untouchable, as though nothing could spoil this moment. But in every story, there are hidden layers beneath the surface. While Lina glowed with anticipation, she didn't notice the small changes in her sister's eyes. Maya smiled for the pictures, laughed at the jokes, and joined the celebrations like everyone else, but her smile never quite reached her heart. Behind the cheerful facade, she carried emotions Lina couldn't see. It was easy to assume that everyone around her was as thrilled as she was, but the truth was far more complicated. Maya's presence carried a quiet weight, one that blended into the background of the festivities. In Lina's joy, there was no room to question it. She only saw what she wanted to see, a sister standing by her side on the happiest day of her life. The bond between Lina and Maya had always been layered, filled with moments of closeness but also an undercurrent of rivalry. Lina remembered birthdays where Maya seemed distant, family dinners where compliments to her turned into awkward silences. Still, she brushed those memories aside, convincing herself that sisters fight, sisters compete, but in the end, sisters stand together. On her wedding day, she wanted to believe only in the best parts of their bond. She convinced herself that Maya's presence meant support, even if her words sometimes carried sharp edges. Lina had no reason to suspect that envy could turn into something much darker. She chose hope over doubt, love over suspicion, and in doing so, she overlooked the storm quietly building around her. Guests began arriving one by one, their faces lighting up with joy as they saw the preparations unfold. Lina could hear snippets of conversation, little remarks about how stunning she looked, how Daniel seemed like the perfect match, how the day felt almost like a scene out of a wedding drama. The compliments boosted her confidence, making her glow even more. She allowed herself to believe that this day would be remembered as flawless, that every person present would carry away only warm memories. Her heart was wide open, ready to embrace every moment. Yet somewhere in the room, an invisible tension simmered, quietly waiting for its moment. Lina, wrapped in the beauty of her dream, remained blind to the unspoken truths around her. As she sat for a brief moment of silence, Lina thought about how much had led to this point. The years of wondering if she would ever find the right person, the nights of doubt, the lessons she learned from heartbreaks and disappointments, all of it seemed worth it now. Daniel's love had turned her fears into strength, her insecurities into confidence. In his presence, she no longer felt like she had to prove her worth, she simply belonged. It was more than a wedding, it was the culmination of her growth, the celebration of everything she had endured. This reflection filled her with peace, anchoring her in the belief that nothing could go wrong. Her story felt like it was finally unfolding exactly as it should. The hours slipped by quickly, filled with small tasks and big emotions. There was the sound of music playing softly in the background, the clinking of glasses as family toasted in excitement, the playful laughter of bridesmaids teasing her about married life. Every detail added to the feeling that this was a day she would remember forever. Lina smiled as she looked around the room, overwhelmed by gratitude. Her dream wasn't just hers anymore, it was shared by everyone present, or so she thought. Beneath the surface of the joy, an unseen storm was slowly forming. It was the kind of storm that doesn't announce itself loudly, but instead waits, hidden in plain sight. And as Lina took one last look at herself in the mirror, adjusting her veil with careful hands, she felt certain she was stepping into a perfect beginning. Her heart swelled with hope, her mind focused on the love she was about to vow forever. She believed the world was on her side. Yet, without realizing it, she stood at the edge of something she never imagined, a betrayal that would not only test her strength but reveal truths she never wanted to face. What she didn't know was that while her dream was unfolding, someone close was preparing to shatter it. Maya stood among the swirl of wedding preparations, her smile carefully placed on her face like a mask she had worn for years. On the outside, she played the role of the supportive sister, ready to celebrate Lina's big day. But inside, a different story brewed. She watched as Lina floated around the house, glowing in her gown, everyone's attention drawn to her beauty and charm. Maya felt herself shrinking in those moments, swallowed by the same shadow she had known since childhood. The laughter and chatter that surrounded Lina only deepened the ache in Maya's chest. She couldn't help but think, once again, she was invisible. Every detail of the wedding seemed to remind Maya of what she didn't have. The sparkling ring on Lina's hand, the way Daniel looked at her as if she was the only person in the room, the whispers of admiration that followed her wherever she went. Each small thing chipped away at Maya's composure, even as she tried to act unbothered. She nodded along when asked for her opinion, offered compliments that felt empty on her tongue, and kept her voice steady even when her thoughts betrayed her. It was easier to fake approval than to reveal the envy boiling under her skin. After all, no one wanted to see jealousy on a wedding day. For years, Maya had watched Lina receive the kind of praise she longed for herself. Family members always compared their beauty, their successes, their choices. Lina was often the favorite, the one who made others proud. Maya carried the weight of those comparisons quietly, pretending it didn't matter. But today, with the spotlight so firmly placed on her sister, the resentment returned with sharp edges. She found herself thinking not about love or celebration, but about how unfair life felt. While everyone saw a perfect bride, Maya saw the reminder of her own loneliness. As she helped with small tasks, like adjusting flowers on the tables or checking last-minute details, Maya couldn't ignore the way people's eyes drifted past her. She existed in the background, useful but unnoticed, while all eyes sparkled when they landed on Lina. The contrast hurt more than she wanted to admit. Still, she forced herself to move with grace, biting her tongue whenever bitterness rose. It was safer that way. She had become skilled at hiding her true feelings, even when they pressed heavy against her chest. What no one realized was that each passing moment of the celebration deepened her sense of invisibility. Friends and family gathered around Lina, sharing advice, compliments, and admiration. Maya lingered nearby, her presence often overlooked. Every laugh that excluded her, every glance that skipped her, left a mark. She told herself she should be happy for her sister, that family meant supporting one another. But jealousy has a way of twisting logic, making it harder to separate right from wrong. She began to resent even Daniel, not for who he was, but for how effortlessly he gave Lina the love she craved herself. It was a silent battle she couldn't win, but she couldn't seem to walk away from either. There were moments when Maya nearly broke through her mask. A sharp comment almost left her lips when someone called Lina the perfect bride. Her hands clenched tighter than they should when she helped carry part of the dress. Her voice wavered when she offered compliments. These small cracks hinted at what she truly felt, but no one seemed to notice. Or maybe they chose not to notice, blinded by the brightness of Lina's happiness. Maya knew she had to keep her envy hidden, but the longer the day stretched on, the harder it became. Yet, not everyone was completely blind. A close friend of Lina's, someone who had always paid attention to the subtle dynamics in the family, noticed the stiffness in Maya's smile. She caught the lingering looks, the way Maya's eyes darkened in moments of joy, the sighs that seemed too heavy for such a happy day. Something about it felt off, though she couldn't quite place it. Was it nerves? Was it something more? She decided not to speak up, convincing herself it wasn't the right time. Still, the unease stayed with her, like an itch at the back of her mind. Maya herself felt trapped in the role she had created. She wanted to be seen, to be acknowledged, but not for the bitterness that consumed her. So, she carried on, pretending to share the joy, while secretly keeping score of every moment she felt overshadowed. Inside, her envy whispered that she would always be second best, and on this day, the gap between her and Lina felt wider than ever. She carried her resentment quietly, though it grew louder in her thoughts, shaping the way she saw every smile directed at her sister. What no one realized yet was that beneath the polished surface of the wedding preparations, Maya's jealousy wasn't fading, it was intensifying. It clung to her like a shadow she couldn't shake, following her through every room, every conversation, every glance. She walked among the guests, blending into the joy, but inside she was somewhere else entirely. And while Lina focused on her dream day, Maya carried a storm within her that no one had yet named. That storm would soon find its way out, but for now, it waited, quiet and unseen, preparing for the moment it would no longer stay hidden. The morning of the wedding carried a buzz of excitement. The house smelled of fresh flowers, makeup brushes tapped against mirrors, and soft music played in the background as bridesmaids prepared for the day ahead. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Laughter echoed through the rooms, and Lina's radiant smile lit up every corner she entered. But just beneath the surface, tension was quietly building, subtle, almost invisible, but strong enough to change the air around them. Maya moved from room to room, completing small tasks, her presence quiet but constant. She fetched water, straightened decorations, and adjusted chairs, always careful to appear helpful. Yet her silence began to feel heavier than words. When someone asked her opinion about Lina's dress, her reply was clipped and almost dismissive. When laughter circled the room, her smile arrived a second too late. Most brushed it off as nerves or tiredness, but to those who looked closely, the cracks in her composure were beginning to show. There were moments when her gaze lingered too long on Daniel. The way he touched Lina's hand, the tenderness in his eyes, it stirred something in Maya she didn't want to admit. It wasn't that she loved him, not in the same way her sister did. It was the life he represented. Stability. Admiration. A love that seemed unshakable. Watching him made her wonder why those things had never been hers. Each stolen glance fueled the quiet storm that brewed inside her, though she never let it spill beyond her thoughts. Even in the happiest moments, unease slipped in unnoticed. As Lina stood in front of the mirror, veil draped gently over her shoulders, Maya's expression shifted for just a second. Envy crossed her face like a shadow before she forced it back into a smile. No one in the room seemed to notice, except for the same friend who had been watching her earlier. She saw the stiffness in Maya's jaw, the way her hands gripped tighter than necessary when adjusting the veil. It was only a flicker, but it raised questions she chose not to voice. Not yet. The sisters shared a brief moment alone, just before the ceremony began. Lina reached for Maya's hand, squeezing it with genuine warmth. "I'm so glad you're here," she whispered, her voice soft with gratitude. Maya returned the gesture, but her hand trembled slightly. Her heart wanted to say something real, to confess the bitterness that had followed her into this day. Instead, she forced a smile and said the words Lina expected, "You look beautiful." And while the words were true, they carried a weight only Maya could feel. The closer the ceremony came, the harder it became to hide what she carried inside. Maya's envy, once manageable, now slipped through the cracks of her carefully built mask. A sigh that lingered too long. A sharpness in her tone. A glance that revealed more than she wanted. She told herself no one noticed, but the truth was different. A few began to sense that something beneath the celebration wasn't as flawless as it appeared. And as the final moments before the vows approached, the tension that had been building in silence began to hum just beneath the joy. The cracks in Maya's composure were no longer just small fractures, they were spreading, quietly but steadily. Something deeper was waiting to reveal itself, and though no one knew it yet, the perfect picture of this wedding was about to shift. The night before the wedding, the house had quieted down, leaving only soft whispers of the wind outside. Lina had fallen into a deep, excited sleep, dreaming of the vows she would soon speak and the life she imagined starting with Daniel. She didn't hear the creak of the floorboards or the soft rustle of fabric as Maya moved with deliberate care, each step calculated so as not to wake anyone. Shadows danced along the walls as she reached the bedroom, her face illuminated by the faint glow of the hallway light. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she approached the wedding dress. It lay pristine on the mannequin, the delicate lace glinting under the soft lighting. Her fingers lingered over the seams, feeling the intricate stitching, imagining the perfect moment when it would betray her sister. She was careful, almost reverent, as she weakened the threads bit by bit, ensuring that no one could see the damage now but that it would become painfully obvious later. Her breath was shallow, her mind racing with the consequences of what she was about to do. Every motion was slow, precise, and quiet. She added a faint stain in a place that only the altar lights would reveal, invisible during the hurried preparations, undetectable to the casual eye. Each adjustment felt like an act of revenge, a release for years of feeling unseen and overshadowed. The air was thick with tension, though only she sensed it. In that room, she was both creator and destroyer, shaping a disaster that would leave Lina vulnerable at the most important moment of her life. Maya paused, looking at the dress as if it were a mirror reflecting both her envy and her cunning. The quiet pride of having planned something so carefully twisted with a strange guilt she couldn't name. Could she undo it if she wanted to? The thought flickered briefly, but she pushed it aside. Her plan was set, and the thrill of control coursed through her veins. For the first time in years, she felt like she had power over the moment she had always envied. She left the dress exactly as it was, stepping back into the hallway shadows. Her breathing slowed, her heart beat loud in her ears as she imagined Lina waking up and putting on the dress, completely unaware. Every detail she had manipulated was invisible to everyone else, yet it carried a weight that could shatter the morning's joy. In that quiet hour, the house seemed peaceful, but a storm had quietly taken root in the fabric of the celebration. Before leaving, Maya glanced at the sleeping Lina one last time. Her sister's serene face, untouched by worry, made her chest tighten unexpectedly. A part of her recoiled at what she had done, but another part steeled itself. She whispered a silent promise to herself: the dress would betray Lina, and no one would see it coming. The contrast between innocence and deceit felt intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Returning to her room, Maya lay awake, listening to the faint hum of the night. She imagined the day ahead, the gasp of the guests, the subtle shock, the unmasking of the betrayal. She allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The plan was in motion, and she could almost see the ripple effect it would cause, though she still had to maintain her careful facade in daylight. Meanwhile, the house remained asleep, unaware of the quiet danger lying in wait. Lina dreamed of love and happiness, the soft glow of anticipation warming her heart. Daniel's hand would soon be hers to hold forever, but the dress she cherished was quietly compromised. The peace of the night was deceptive, and in its silence, tension grew, ready to erupt the next day. As the night deepened, the camera of imagination lingers on the quiet dress, its fabric untouched to the naked eye, yet secretly marked by jealousy. The audience senses the coming disaster, hearts beating faster, waiting for the morning when dreams and betrayal collide. And just like that, the stage is set, leaving viewers on edge for the dawn of Lina's wedding day. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, brushing across the walls with a soft, golden glow. Lina awoke with a fluttering heart, excitement bubbling through every thought. Today was the day she had dreamed about since she was a little girl, and the energy in her chest made her feel light, almost weightless. She stretched, imagining the vows she would say and the faces of everyone gathered to celebrate her love for Daniel. It all felt so real, yet delicate, like a glass ornament ready to shimmer in the morning light. Her bridesmaids bustled around her, brushing hair, adjusting makeup, and helping her step into the dress she had waited for so long. Every detail was perfect, the way the fabric fell, the shimmer in the lace, the gentle sway as she moved. Lina's eyes sparkled with joy, reflecting the sunlight streaming through the windows. Every compliment from her friends felt like a validation of the dream she had held for so many years. Her chest swelled with gratitude and happiness, a pure, unshakable moment of confidence. Daniel arrived quietly, carrying a small bouquet for her. When Lina saw him, her breath caught in a moment of unspoken connection. His eyes held admiration, pride, and a tender reassurance that melted every tiny worry. She felt grounded, anchored by the love that had grown between them through years of patience and shared laughter. The support of the people she loved most surrounded her, giving her a feeling of safety she had never known before. The morning seemed flawless, a perfect blend of calm, excitement, and anticipation. Yet, as Lina moved through the preparations, a subtle unease brushed the edges of her awareness. Maya lingered nearby, her smile too tight, her movement slightly delayed. There was a sharpness in her gaze that Lina couldn't place, a tension beneath the facade that contrasted with the light-hearted energy around them. She thought perhaps it was just nerves or exhaustion, but something in the quiet corners of the room felt different, almost like a shadow passing unnoticed. Still, Lina chose to focus on the love and excitement that filled her morning. As she adjusted her veil, Lina caught herself in the mirror. She marveled at the way the dress hugged her shoulders and flared at the hem, imagining herself walking down the aisle. Every stitch, every delicate detail of lace, was a reminder of the journey she had taken to reach this moment. It was more than just a dress, it was hope, commitment, and the reflection of all the love that had led her here. The world felt gentle and bright around her, as if time had slowed to honor the day. Maya, meanwhile, watched from the edges of the room, her presence almost imperceptible to everyone else. She moved with the care of someone holding back a secret, her eyes tracking Lina's every motion. The excitement of the morning only intensified her own inner turmoil. A quiet storm of envy churned beneath her composed exterior. Her breathing was steady, but each step and gesture carried hidden intention, an unspoken plan that no one could see, not even Lina herself. The house hummed with laughter, chatter, and anticipation, blending with the soft rustle of fabric and the occasional click of a camera. Everyone seemed focused on Lina, praising her radiance and offering help, yet Maya's careful observation of every detail went unnoticed. She watched the folds of the dress, the placement of the veil, and the gleam of the jewelry. Everything seemed perfect on the surface, but in her mind, she was rehearsing what was to come, keeping the secret of her actions close to her chest. When Lina took a deep breath and prepared to leave her room, Daniel's gentle touch on her arm reminded her that love was steady, reliable, and true. In that moment, the morning felt complete, as though nothing could disturb the joy of the day. Every worry, every fleeting doubt, seemed to melt away beneath the warmth of the sunlight and the presence of those who loved her. The dream was alive, and she could almost hear it whispering promises of happiness and fulfillment. But just as the doors opened and footsteps echoed down the hall, a quiet glance from Maya hinted at the tension that would soon surface. Her eyes carried a subtle message, a silent warning that something was not as it seemed. Lina, caught in her excitement and the beauty of the morning, remained unaware. The dress, the guests, and the dream all hung on the edge of a delicate balance, waiting for the next step to reveal what had been quietly set into motion. The venue was alive with energy, soft sunlight spilling through tall windows and casting a warm glow on the gathered guests. Chairs lined the aisle perfectly, flowers arranged with care, and the faint hum of music created a gentle rhythm in the background. Lina felt her heart race as she took her first steps toward the altar, each one measured, each one deliberate, yet light with excitement. Every eye in the room seemed to follow her, drawn to her radiant smile and the elegant movement of her dress. Daniel waited at the end of the aisle, his expression calm, loving, and full of anticipation. As Lina approached, he extended his hand, and she felt a wave of reassurance wash over her. The crowd held its collective breath, captivated by the sight of the bride glowing with happiness. The atmosphere was almost cinematic, every gesture, glance, and whispered word perfectly timed in the theater of this wedding day. In that moment, Lina believed nothing could go wrong, that love had made her invincible. The music swelled softly, emphasizing the beauty of the moment, and Lina felt every emotion more deeply than she ever imagined possible. Gratitude, excitement, hope, all mixed with a slight tremor of nervous anticipation. The journey to this aisle had been long, filled with dreams, planning, and preparation, and now the culmination of it all unfolded before her eyes. She breathed in the energy, feeling surrounded by people who loved her and supported the union she and Daniel had built. Yet, as she moved closer to the altar, the audience could sense an undercurrent of tension, though no one could pinpoint it. Maya's presence lingered at the edges of Lina's vision, calm yet deliberate, her eyes following every step with a quiet intensity. There was a subtle darkness in her gaze, a hint that something unseen had already been set into motion. Lina remained oblivious, her focus entirely on the joy and love radiating from Daniel and the guests. The fabric of the dress shifted with each step, the lace catching the light, shimmering like a delicate promise. Lina felt beautiful, confident, and almost weightless as the aisle passed beneath her. Every smile from the guests strengthened her belief that this day was perfect, that nothing could interfere with the dream she had cherished. Yet the audience knew, there was a fragile imperfection hidden in plain sight, a quiet sabotage that waited for the spotlight to reveal it. Whispers of admiration floated through the air, friends complimenting her grace, family murmuring approval, and even strangers seemed drawn into the magic of the moment. Daniel's supportive smile never wavered, his hands steady and reassuring, making Lina feel protected against any unseen threat. She walked with purpose and joy, feeling the culmination of love and effort guiding her forward. Every heartbeat seemed synchronized with the soft music, as though the world itself celebrated the union about to take place. But shadows moved differently in the light of celebration. Maya's quiet satisfaction was nearly imperceptible, her plans still carefully concealed. The audience, now acutely aware, felt the tension ripple just beneath the surface. Each step Lina took brought her closer to a turning point she couldn't yet see, and the suspense built like a slow, steady drumbeat behind the scene of perfect celebration. The guests leaned forward slightly, captivated not just by the ceremony but by the anticipation of what might happen next. There was an unspoken tension that threaded through the air, invisible to Lina but noticeable to those attuned to subtle cues. The wedding, seemingly flawless, now carried a weight of suspense, a silent promise that the day's events would soon shift dramatically. As Lina reached the altar, the music softened, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Daniel's eyes met hers with unwavering love, grounding her in this perfect moment. Yet just as she lifted her gaze, a faint imperfection caught the corner of the audience's eye, the tiny, unnoticed flaw in the dress that would soon change everything. The stage was set for the unfolding drama, and anticipation hung thick in the air, leaving everyone waiting for the inevitable revelation. The ceremony reached its peak as Lina stood beneath the soft, golden light of the altar, her hands trembling slightly with excitement and nerves. Daniel's gaze held hers, a steady anchor in the sea of emotions that swirled around her. Everything seemed perfect, the flowers glimmered, the music swelled, and the guests' eyes followed her with admiration. She felt radiant, a living picture of joy and love, completely unaware of the fragile thread holding her dream together. As she took a deep breath and moved forward, the slightest rip began at the seam of the dress, a quiet betrayal hidden in plain sight. It was almost imperceptible at first, a small disturbance in the lace that only those paying close attention might notice. Lina's mind was elsewhere, focused on the vows and the warmth of Daniel's hand, leaving the moment vulnerable. The audience, aware of what had been set into motion, felt a subtle tension ripple through the room, a silent anticipation of what was about to unfold. A faint stain, invisible in the softer lighting, started to reveal itself under the direct altar lights. The shimmer of the fabric could no longer conceal it completely. Gasps began to flutter quietly among the guests, whispers threading through the crowd as confusion spread. Lina, feeling the shift in energy, glanced down, her eyes widening with sudden horror. The dress she had cherished, the symbol of her dream, was no longer perfect. The seams that had been carefully weakened gave way with a soft tear, growing longer with each step she took. A quiet snap sounded beneath the music, barely audible but significant enough to send a shiver down her spine. Lina froze for a moment, confusion and panic flickering across her features. Every eye in the room now tracked the flaw in her dress, and the beauty she had radiated just moments ago began to fade under the weight of embarrassment. Daniel immediately stepped closer, his hand on her back, offering both support and protection. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice steady and reassuring. But even as he tried to comfort her, Lina felt the sting of humiliation piercing her chest. She could hear soft murmurs spreading among the guests, a mix of sympathy and disbelief. What was meant to be a flawless celebration had transformed into a moment of vulnerability she had never anticipated. Maya's eyes, however, sparkled with quiet satisfaction. Every inch of her plan had succeeded, and the subtle destruction she had orchestrated had reached its climax. She remained still, blending into the crowd, letting others notice the chaos while she silently savored the results of her envy. The satisfaction she felt was twisted, yet undeniable, as the perfect image Lina had built began to unravel before the eyes of everyone present. The guests shifted uncomfortably, some reaching out to offer assistance, others frozen in shock. Lina's cheeks burned with shame, but beneath it all, she felt something else, a rising determination not to let the humiliation define her. Every tear, every gasp, every glance only fueled a growing awareness that her story wasn't over yet. The drama had peaked, but the resolution had not come. A close friend of Lina's, someone who had observed Maya's behavior before, now stepped forward subtly. Her eyes met Lina's, conveying the silent message, "I saw what happened." It was the first spark of hope amid the embarrassment, a hint that the truth might emerge. The room seemed suspended in a delicate balance, caught between the shock of the present and the anticipation of revelation. As the altar lights caught the tear and the stain fully revealed themselves, the audience felt the weight of betrayal and the intensity of the moment. Lina, trembling but trying to maintain grace, took a deep breath, holding on to Daniel's hand. And in that instant, the tension built to its fullest, leaving everyone waiting to see who would speak first, how the truth would finally surface, and whether love could withstand the sting of envy. The room buzzed with whispers and sympathetic glances as Lina tried to steady herself, her heart hammering with a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. The dress she had imagined herself wearing flawlessly was now a symbol of unexpected betrayal, and though Daniel held her hand tightly, the sting of humiliation lingered. Her eyes darted around, searching for someone, anyone, who could explain what had happened. That's when her close friend, Emma, stepped forward, her face serious but calm, breaking the delicate tension. Emma's voice was gentle but firm as she addressed the gathering, careful not to escalate the moment further. "I saw Maya near Lina's dress last night," she said softly, yet loud enough for some to hear. The room seemed to pause, the murmurs fading as the weight of her words sank in. Eyes widened, glances exchanged between family members, and the gentle hum of music felt suddenly out of place. Suspense hung in the air like a tangible thing, as everyone tried to piece together the implications of what had just been revealed. Maya's expression flickered for a moment, a slight tightening around her lips, but she remained composed on the outside. No one yet openly accused her, and the uncertainty in the room thickened the tension. Lina's chest tightened, and a surge of both fear and clarity ran through her. The humiliation she felt began to mingle with the spark of justice, a dawning realization that the truth was beginning to emerge, slowly but surely, through the eyes of someone who had paid attention. Emma continued, recounting the small, almost imperceptible details she had noticed, the way Maya lingered near the dress, her careful movements, and the subtle glances filled with quiet intent. The story wasn't complete, but it painted a picture that no one could ignore. Whispers grew louder, shifting from shock to curiosity, and Lina felt the first ripple of relief that someone finally understood the gravity of what had been done. The guests, previously stunned, now leaned in slightly, eager to hear more. The tension shifted, no longer solely about the dress or the humiliation, but about the hidden dynamics and betrayal that had been masked by smiles and forced politeness. Each word Emma spoke layered the story, deepening the audience's understanding of Maya's envy and calculated actions. Lina's heart pounded, a mix of fear, hope, and the rising anticipation of confrontation. Maya's calm exterior began to show tiny cracks, a slight shift in posture, the way her hands fidgeted briefly. She realized that Emma's revelation could no longer be contained within the safety of subtle glances and half-truths. The audience sensed the impending turning point, their curiosity piquing, the suspense building as they waited for the moment when the truth would finally be confronted openly. Meanwhile, Lina's emotions surged. Hurt mingled with a quiet anger, but her love for Daniel and her commitment to the day held her steady. She felt a growing determination to see justice served, even in the delicate setting of the wedding. The audience, fully immersed, could feel her resolve strengthening, the transformation from victim to empowered individual becoming palpable. Emma's courage acted as a catalyst, a subtle but powerful force shifting the energy in the room. The guests, previously passive observers, now felt the tension mounting and their anticipation rising. Each second stretched, each breath held, as the truth began to orbit closer and closer to full revelation. The audience could almost hear the collective heartbeat of everyone present, waiting for the confrontation that was about to unfold. And in that suspended moment, Maya understood. No longer hidden, her envy was exposed to the careful eyes that mattered most. Yet, the final confrontation had not yet happened. The tension, thick and electrifying, promised a dramatic explosion soon. The audience, on the edge of their seats, knew that Lina's journey through humiliation was moving toward justice, and that the next chapter would reveal whether love and truth could triumph over betrayal. The room held its breath as Lina's eyes locked on Maya, the weight of Emma's revelation settling heavily between them. Guests shuffled uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene or simply witness the unfolding drama. The soft hum of the music had faded into an almost tangible silence, broken only by the slight rustle of dresses and the quiet gasp of someone realizing the depth of the betrayal. Lina felt her chest tighten, the mix of shock, anger, and hurt surging through her. With a steadying breath, Lina finally spoke, her voice clear but carrying the tremor of raw emotion. "Maya, did you do this?" The question hung in the air like a lightning bolt, striking everyone in the room with sudden clarity. Maya's face remained calm at first, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of panic, a tiny crack in the carefully built facade she had maintained all these months. The audience sensed the delicate balance teetering, knowing the answer would determine the next wave of emotional intensity. The guests leaned in, tension thick and heavy, as Maya hesitated, her lips pressed tightly together. Seconds stretched endlessly, a heartbeat seeming like a lifetime, until she finally spoke, voice quiet yet undeniable. "Yes. I did." The words, simple yet shattering, reverberated through the room. Gasps, whispers, and stunned expressions spread among family and friends. The betrayal, once hidden, was now laid bare, leaving everyone reeling from the depth of envy and calculated malice that had gone unnoticed until this precise moment. Lina's mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions crashing together. Pain, shock, and a flash of anger surged, but beneath it, she felt the need for clarity. She demanded answers, wanting to understand why Maya would sabotage something so important. The guests watched in silent fascination, feeling every pulse of emotion, every shift in the room's energy, as the story moved from suspense into raw, undeniable truth. Maya's confession spilled into explanation, a mixture of jealousy, longing for attention, and feeling overshadowed. She spoke of years of envy, of quiet bitterness that had grown with every moment Lina shone. Her voice wavered as she admitted the sabotage, her own shame and fear exposed alongside her confession. The audience felt the tension, the empathy mingling with disbelief, as the complexity of human emotion unfolded before them. The family, previously in stunned silence, began to react. Faces hardened with disappointment, some shook their heads in disbelief, others whispered softly to one another. The contrast between the outward calm of the ceremony and the internal storm of betrayal heightened the drama. Lina's heart ached, but she found a steadying force in Daniel's unwavering presence, his hand firmly holding hers as if to remind her that love could weather even this. As the confrontation deepened, Lina's voice grew stronger, measured yet firm. She expressed her hurt, disappointment, and the realization that betrayal can come from those closest to us. Each word landed with gravity, resonating through the room, grounding the audience in the emotional reality of the moment. Maya's posture slumped, the weight of exposure pressing down, and the truth became undeniable. Even as emotions ran high, a subtle shift occurred, the atmosphere moved from chaos toward resolution. Guests softened, recognizing that while betrayal had occurred, love and honesty had the power to restore balance. Lina's courage and dignity anchored the scene, demonstrating that even in the face of jealousy, integrity and composure could prevail. The audience felt a mix of tension and relief, waiting for the final movement of this emotional crescendo. And as the confrontation reached its peak, the energy in the room settled, poised for the final act of resolution. The audience sensed the turning point. Would love, support, and courage allow Lina to reclaim her day? The suspense, thick and electric, hinted that the next chapter would show not just recovery, but triumph over envy, humiliation, and betrayal. The air was thick with tension as Lina took a deep breath, feeling the eyes of everyone around her. Daniel squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise that he would stand by her no matter what. The crowd, still murmuring from the revelation, began to sense a shift, love and support radiating from those who cared most. Lina realized that the humiliation, the betrayal, and the envy could not define her day. She was ready to reclaim it. With steady steps, Lina moved toward the dress, inspecting the damage calmly. The seams had weakened, the stain was visible, but she refused to let it break her spirit. Guests stepped in, offering pins, extra fabric, and advice, transforming panic into collaboration. The energy in the room shifted, from whispered shock to quiet determination, as everyone rallied to ensure the celebration continued. Lina felt empowered, reminded that love, support, and resilience could triumph over jealousy. Daniel whispered reassurances in her ear, grounding her in the love they shared. His presence, steady and unwavering, reminded her that humiliation could never overshadow the bond they had built together. Together, they navigated the delicate adjustments to the dress, a symbolic act of repairing not only the fabric but also the emotional space that Maya's envy had disrupted. The audience could feel the love strengthening, the tension easing with every small, deliberate movement. Maya watched quietly, the satisfaction that had once gleamed in her eyes fading into something else, a regret, perhaps, or a realization that her actions could not truly harm the love between Lina and Daniel. Her envy had caused a moment of chaos, but it could not dismantle the foundation of trust, respect, and care that surrounded the bride and groom. The audience sensed the moral taking shape, as human flaws met steadfast love and resilience. As the ceremony continued, Lina walked down the aisle with newfound confidence, the repaired dress holding together, and her spirit brighter than before. Each step symbolized triumph over humiliation, a quiet victory that resonated with everyone present. Daniel's gaze never wavered, and the couple's love illuminated the room, creating a warmth that even the earlier betrayal could not dim. The guests felt the shift, their attention captivated not by the mishap, but by the strength and courage Lina displayed. The crowd erupted into applause, not just for the couple, but for the power of love, forgiveness, and resilience. Friends who had helped subtly nodded, understanding the depth of what had been overcome. The day transformed, moments of embarrassment replaced by celebration, and the audience could feel the emotional release, the triumph of love against jealousy. Lina's journey, from hope to betrayal to empowerment, had reached its full arc. In the quiet moments after the ceremony, Lina and Daniel shared a glance filled with unspoken understanding. Their love had been tested, their trust reaffirmed, and the shadow of envy had been overcome. The narrative of the wedding, once tainted by sabotage, was rewritten by courage, empathy, and unwavering commitment. Every detail of the day, even the smallest act of kindness, reinforced the resilience of love. The audience, now fully immersed, felt the resolution on a deep emotional level. The story illustrated that even the darkest intentions, when met with courage and support, could be overcome. Lina's day, though marred by jealousy, was ultimately defined by love, determination, and the power of human connection. The journey had been intense, suspenseful, and deeply moving, leaving a lasting impression. And as the celebration continued, laughter and joy returned, mingling with the soft music that had underscored the day. Lina's story was a testament to the triumph of love over envy, to the strength that comes from standing together, and to the truth that even in moments of humiliation, courage can transform pain into empowerment. The audience was left inspired, understanding that love, honesty, and resilience could truly conquer any obstacle. This story reminds us that jealousy can destroy families, but true love and resilience can shine even in the darkest moments. Lina walked away not only as a bride, but as a woman who proved that humiliation cannot break her spirit. What would you do if your own sister betrayed you this way? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more emotional wedding stories full of drama, betrayal, and redemption, subscribe to Behind the Wedding, because every wedding hides a secret.